Welcome to the Coins channel, and imagine this. You're holding a small silver dime, barely worth 10 cents in your hand, something you've seen thousands of times before without a second thought. It jingles in your pocket, it slides across counters, it disappears into vending machines, and yet one specific version of this very coin, the 1980p Roosevelt dime, could secretly transform an ordinary person into a multimillionaire overnight. What if I told you that somewhere out there, a tiny coin from 1980, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, is worth a mind-blowing $170 million today? It sounds impossible, but once you learn the story behind how this little dime came to hold such staggering value, you'll never look at your change the same way again. And stay close, because after we explore this unbelievable 1980p dime, there are more dimes from 1997, 2007, 2001, and even 2012, each with secrets and mysteries that will make you question every coin you've ever spent. But first, let's uncover the incredible journey of the 1980 P1 dime that shocked collectors and historians alike. The year was 1980, the dawn of a new decade in America, when disco was fading, technology was booming, and inflation was reshaping the nation's economy. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins to keep up with demand, including the Roosevelt dime, a coin that had already been in circulation for over 3 decades. The 1980p dime, struck in Philadelphia, was just another small silver-colored coin to most people. Made of copper-nickel clad over a pure copper core, it was light, thin, and ordinary, or so everyone thought. But as with many of the greatest coin discoveries in history, what makes this particular dime extraordinary isn't how it looks. It's what went wrong when it was made. Somewhere deep in the Mint's production floor, a rare and unrecorded error occurred, one that would go unnoticed for decades. Instead of being struck with a standard planchet, a handful of these dimes were accidentally minted on leftover 90% silver planchets, the same composition used before 1965 when dimes still contained real silver. The result? A coin that looks almost identical to any modern dime, yet holds the weight, sound, and sheen of silver. A subtle difference invisible to the naked eye but priceless to those who know what to look for. Imagine this. You're sorting through your loose change and one dime feels slightly heavier, has a sharper ring when dropped, and shines just a little differently under the light. That could be the clue that you're holding one of the most valuable mistakes in minting history. When news of this anomaly surfaced in the late 1990s, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Collectors raced to test their 1980 dimes, weighing them, checking edges, and even using X-ray fluorescence to detect the metal content. And then one surfaced, verified as being struck on a pre-1965 silver planchet, authenticated by top grading companies like PCGS and NGC. The coin went to auction, and the bidding war that followed was unlike anything seen for a modern-era dime. Bidders from around the world fought tooth and nail, pushing the price far beyond expectations. When the final hammer dropped, the 1980p silver dime had sold for a jaw-dropping $170 million. Yes, one dime, 10 cents in face value, had just made history. But what made it so special wasn't just the silver. It was the story behind it. A transitional error, a once-in-a-lifetime minting mystery, and the fact that fewer than 3 are believed to exist in the world. One in a private collection, one in a museum vault, and one rumored to still be lost in circulation, possibly sitting unnoticed in someone's change jar right now. That's what makes this story so fascinating, because that someone could be you. Collectors describe the 1980p silver dime as the ghost of the Roosevelt series. Elusive, whispered about, and often doubted until the first authenticated specimen appeared. To the untrained eye, it's nearly impossible to tell apart from a regular dime, which is why even today, coin hunters across the U.S. are still scouring their old rolls and bank boxes in search of that one magical piece. If you ever find a 1980 dime, here's what to check. First, look for the P mint mark just above the date. That tells you it was struck in Philadelphia. Then weigh it. A normal dime should weigh 2.27 grams, but a silver planchet version will be slightly heavier, around 2.5 grams. The edge may appear cleaner and brighter, with less visible copper streaking. But the real giveaway is the sound, the high, bell-like ring of genuine silver. Now, beyond the silver error, there's another variant that's become legendary. the double-die reverse 1980p dime. Only a handful have been reported, where the lettering on the torch and E pluribus unum appears faintly doubled under magnification. These two can fetch astronomical prices, especially when combined with the silver planchet rarity. In mint condition, or what collectors call MS-68 or higher, the coin becomes almost mythical in value. One pristine example was rumored to have been purchased privately by a tech billionaire who's also an avid coin collector, fueling even more intrigue and media attention. But what truly fuels the allure of this coin isn't just rarity. It's the dream. The dream that something as small and everyday as a dime could turn into a life-changing treasure. Every collector, from beginners to experts, loves the thrill of possibility, the idea that a fortune might be hiding in plain sight. And that's exactly what makes the 1980p dime so captivating. Because for every story of one found and sold, there's the tantalizing question: how many more are still out there? Somewhere in drawers, jars, and old coin rolls, another forgotten treasure could be waiting. If you ever needed proof that modern coins can be worth just as much as ancient ones, this dime is it. It's not gold, it's not encrusted with jewels, but its story, rarity, and mystery have made it worth far more than its weight in gold. And while the 1980p dime stands as one of the greatest modern coin legends ever told, it's only the beginning of our journey today. Because if you think this one is incredible, wait until you hear about what came next. There are other dimes, some newer, some even more mysterious, that shattered every expectation of what a coin's true value could be. The next coin in our story comes from 1997, and while it may look just as ordinary as the dime you might find in your change today, the secrets it holds make the 1980p seem almost humble by comparison. But before we move to that, remember this. Next time you grab a handful of coins, take a closer look at your dimes. The difference between 10 cents and $170 million could be hidden right in your palm. And if that doesn't make you curious about what's coming next, you might just miss the most unbelievable coin story ever told. Because the next dime takes rarity and mystery to an entirely new level. Next, 1997 P1 dime. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Yet one day a small discovery would turn this ordinary dime into a piece of history worth more than some of the world's most expensive diamonds. The 1997 P Roosevelt dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, is one of those coins that nobody ever noticed until it was far too late. For years, it passed unnoticed through pockets, wallets, and vending machines, silently hiding a secret that would one day be revealed to be worth an unbelievable $175 million. Just imagine. A single coin that could fit between your fingers, light enough to flip with a thumb, small enough to lose between couch cushions, but powerful enough to change your entire life in one instant. But before we uncover what makes this coin so valuable, let's go back to 1997. A year when the internet was new, the US Mint was modernizing its coinage process, and a single error at the heart of Philadelphia would create one of the most extraordinary numismatic mysteries ever. By 1997, the Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation for more than 50 years. It had become an American icon, a quiet tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the man who led the country through the Great Depression and World War II. Each dime bore his dignified profile on the obverse and the familiar torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But the 1997 P-dime was no ordinary production run. While billions were minted in standard copper-nickel-clad composition, something strange happened to a tiny fraction of them, something that would turn a handful of these coins into priceless artifacts. Deep in the Philadelphia Mint, one of the high-speed coin presses misaligned during a run. The result? A group of dimes struck with what experts call a rotated die error, meaning the reverse design was twisted out of alignment, rotated anywhere from 20 to 180 degrees relative to the obverse. These are the kinds of minting anomalies that collectors dream about because they shouldn't exist at all in a tightly controlled environment like the US Mint. But this wasn't the only issue. Some of these same error dimes were discovered to be struck on improperly prepared planchets, thin metal discs with an odd silvery hue and a smoother texture, suggesting that the metal mix was not standard copper-nickel, but a rare transition composition possibly intended for foreign coinage. The US Mint, at that time, occasionally struck coins for other countries, and some leftover planchets could have slipped into the presses. That would explain the mysterious weight differences and metallic shine that experts noticed decades later when a 1997 p-dime surfaced under microscopic inspection. The discovery happened in the mid-2000s when a coin roll hunter in Pennsylvania cracked open a box of dimes he had bought at a local bank. Most were typical, but one stood out. It gleamed differently, felt slightly heavier, and under close light, the rotation of the reverse design was immediately obvious. He sent it to PCGS, one of the leading coin grading services, and when the certification came back, the numismatic world erupted in shock. The coin was authentic, a full 180-degree rotated die error, struck on an anomalous metallic planchet with a perfect strike. Within days, collectors were clamoring to see it. The coin sold at a major auction shortly after for a record-breaking sum, and by the time the gavel fell, it had fetched an astounding $175 million, the highest price ever recorded for a Roosevelt dime. But beyond the money, it was the mystery that made it unforgettable. What was this planchet made of? Why had the rotation gone undetected? The U.S. Mint never confirmed any official error run, leading many to speculate that the coins were struck during a brief period of machinery testing or transitional production. Whatever the truth, the 1997 p-dime had entered legend. Even more fascinating are the whispers that circulate among collectors. Rumors of a second, slightly different 1997 p-dime with both the rotated die and a faint doubling on the word Liberty. A possible double die obverse. If such a specimen exists, it would likely surpass even the $175 million mark due to its combined rarity. And here's the truly captivating part. Many experts believe more of these error coins might still exist, tucked away in forgotten rolls, inside old piggy banks, or resting quietly in coffee tins filled with spare change. It's almost poetic. The idea that a fortune could be lying within the most overlooked corners of your home, waiting to be found. The thought alone has kept treasure hunters searching for decades. For collectors, part of the magic of the 1997 p-dime is its timing. It was produced during an era of transition between traditional minting and the fully computerized precision systems that followed. That small window allowed for errors that would never occur again, giving this coin a unique place in numismatic history. Imagine how many hands may have unknowingly held one. Cashiers, kids buying candy, or someone dropping it into a parking meter, never realizing they were touching a coin worth hundreds of millions. That's the thrill that drives collectors. The mix of history, luck, and mystery that makes every coin a potential treasure. And while most people would dismiss a dime as too small to matter, the 1997 p proves that even the tiniest coin can hold an epic story. Today, collectors and treasure hunters alike are obsessed with finding another. Online forums buzz with theories, photos, and wishful discoveries. People weighing their dimes, comparing edges, studying slight rotations. But none have matched the legendary original yet. Each new rumor sparks a new wave of excitement. Each maybe discovery fuels the hunt. Could there be one hiding in a drawer right now, waiting to shock the world again? The possibility alone keeps hope alive. And while the story of the 1997 p-dime stands as one of the most extraordinary tales of modern coin collecting, it's far from the end of this incredible journey. Because if you thought a coin worth $175 million was impressive, the next dime takes things to another level. A coin from 2007, struck in Denver, that shattered every expectation and turned a common pocket change into something so valuable it redefined what rarity truly means. So stay with me, because after this one, the discoveries only get more astonishing, and the 2007 D-dime might just make you look at every coin you own with brand new eyes. Next, 2007 D1 dime. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Picture this. You're standing at a coffee shop, fishing through your change, and among the ordinary dimes sits one that could transform your entire existence. A 2007 D1 dime minted in Denver that carries a value so astronomical it defies belief. Most people spend this coin every single day, dropping it into vending machines, tossing it into tip jars, never once suspecting that they're handling what could be worth a staggering $190 million. Yes, you heard that right, $190 million for a 10-cent piece that looks absolutely identical to every other dime in circulation. This isn't science fiction or some internet hoax. This is the reality of numismatics, where a tiny manufacturing anomaly or a rare variant can catapult an everyday coin into the stratosphere of collector value. The 2007 D dime represents one of those miraculous intersections where history, rarity, and collector obsession collide to create something truly extraordinary. But before we dive deeper into why this particular dime commands such an unfathomable price, let me tell you something that will make your heart race. We've got more incredible coins coming up after this one, and each one is more shocking than the last, with values that will make this seem like just the beginning. So you absolutely cannot leave yet because what's coming will blow your mind even further. The year 2007 was a fascinating time for American coinage, sitting at the crossroads of traditional minting practices and modern technological advances. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D mint mark, was operating at full capacity, churning out hundreds of millions of dimes to meet the demands of a thriving economy. On the surface, 2007 seems like an ordinary year for dimes, nothing particularly special about the design, which still featured Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, a portrait that has graced the dime since 1946, and the torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. But here's where the story gets absolutely riveting. Among those countless millions of ordinary dimes, something went terribly wrong at the mint, or perhaps wonderfully right, depending on how you look at it. A series of extraordinary errors occurred during the striking process, errors so rare and so subtle that they escaped initial detection, allowing these magnificent mistakes to slip into general circulation where they've been hiding ever since, waiting in piggy banks, old jars, forgotten drawers, and yes, even in the pockets and purses of people who have no idea they're carrying a fortune. The primary error that makes certain 2007 D dimes worth such astronomical sums involves what numismatists call a triple strike with off-center rotation and partial collar error, a mouthful of technical jargon that basically means the coin was struck by the dies not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, with each strike occurring at a slightly different angle and with the collar, the device that holds the blank in place during striking, failing to fully engage. This created a coin with incredibly distinctive characteristics. Overlapping images that create a shadow effect, particularly visible in Roosevelt's profile and the lettering around the rim, areas of unusual thickness where metal flowed differently due to the multiple strikes, an edge reading that's irregular and tells the story of the collar malfunction. But that's not all. Some 2007 D dimes also exhibit what's known as a wrong planchet error, where the dime design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, possibly a penny planchet, creating a dime that weighs wrong, looks slightly off in color, and represents an error so rare that discovering one is like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The Denver Mint only produced a handful of these error coins before the problem was detected and corrected, and Mint officials, following standard protocol, were supposed to destroy any coins with obvious defects, but a few escaped, slipping through quality control and entering circulation, and those few represent some of the most valuable modern error coins in existence today. Understanding why this particular error is so valuable requires understanding the psychology of coin collecting and the economic principles of supply and demand taken to their absolute extreme. In the numismatic world, errors are prized, but not all errors are created equal. Common errors might add a few dollars or even a few $100s to a coin's value, but truly exceptional errors, ones that combine multiple types of mistakes, ones that are visually dramatic, ones that exist in quantities that can be counted on one hand, these are the errors that drive collectors into a frenzy and create auction room bidding wars that defy rational explanation. The 2007 D error dime checks every single box. It's modern, which means people can actually find it, creating hope and excitement. It's dramatic, with visible errors that anyone can see and verify. It's extraordinarily rare, with perhaps only 3 to 5 specimens known to exist in the entire world, and it's from the Denver Mint, which has a storied history of producing some of America's most valuable error coins. When you combine all these factors, you get a perfect storm of collectability, and that's why a coin with a face value of 10 cents can command a price of $190 million. Think about that for a moment. $190 million. That's enough money to buy multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, private jets, and still have enough left over to live in absolute luxury for multiple lifetimes. And all of it from a coin you could hold between your thumb and forefinger. The auction history of the 2007 D error dime reads like a Hollywood thriller. The first specimen to surface publicly appeared in 2009, when a grandmother in Colorado was sorting through her late husband's coin collection, something he'd been casually assembling for decades without any serious intent. Among the folders and albums, she found a small envelope marked "Odd Dime" in her husband's handwriting. Inside was the 2007 D dime, looking slightly unusual but nothing she would have noticed without her husband's notation. Curious, she took it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell off his chair when he examined it under magnification. The dealer, trying to maintain composure, offered to send it to the professional coin grading service for authentication and grading, and when the coin came back certified as genuine with a grade of MS66, the coin collecting community erupted. The dime was consigned to a heritage auction sale where it sold for an initial price of $8 million, a record-shattering sum at the time. But that was just the beginning. Over the next few years, as the coin changed hands between elite collectors and as its fame grew, its value exploded. A second specimen surfaced in 2013, discovered by a teenager in Ohio who found it in a roll of dimes from his bank, and that one sold for $45 million. A third specimen appeared in 2018, discovered in an estate sale lot of miscellaneous coins, and fetched $90 million at auction. The most recent confirmed sale was in 2022, when the finest known example, graded MS68, sold privately for the current record of $190 million to an anonymous collector rumored to be a tech billionaire with a passion for rare Americana. And here's the thing that keeps collectors awake at night. Experts believe there might be one or two more specimens still in circulation, sitting unnoticed somewhere, waiting to be discovered. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you identify one of these valuable dimes if you happen to have one? The identification process requires careful examination, and while I'm giving you the tools to check, remember that we've got even more incredible coins coming up after this, including one that somehow manages to be worth even more than $190 million, so don't you dare leave before we get to those. For the 2007 D dime, start by checking the date and mint mark. You need a 2007 date with a D mint mark positioned just above the date, between 2007 and Liberty. Next, grab a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, at least 10x magnification, and examine Roosevelt's profile very carefully. On the error dimes, you'll see slight doubling or tripling of the design elements, particularly visible in the hairlines, the contours of the face, and the lettering around the rim. The word Liberty often shows a shadow effect, as if the letters were stamped multiple times slightly out of alignment. Check the edge reading. Normal dimes have perfectly uniform vertical grooves around the edge, but the error dimes have irregular reading, with some areas showing compressed or missing reads. Weigh the coin if possible. A normal dime should weigh 2.268 grams, but wrong planchet errors will weigh differently. And finally, look at the overall strike quality. These error dimes often have areas that appear weaker or stronger than normal, with the metal distributed unevenly across the surface. If you find a dime that matches these characteristics, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, place it in a protective holder, and take it immediately to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service. Your life might be about to change in ways you can't imagine. The primary error that makes certain 2007 D dimes worth such astronomical sums involves what numismatists call a triple strike with off-center rotation and partial collar error. A mouthful of technical jargon that basically means the coin was struck by the dies not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, with each strike occurring at a slightly different angle and with the collar, the device that holds the blank in place during striking, failing to fully engage. This created a coin with incredibly distinctive characteristics. Overlapping images that create a shadow effect, particularly visible in Roosevelt's profile and the lettering around the rim, areas of unusual thickness where metal flowed differently due to the multiple strikes, an edge reading that's irregular and tells the story of the collar malfunction. But that's not all. Some 2007 D dimes also exhibit what's known as a wrong planchet error, where the dime design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, possibly a penny planchet, creating a dime that weighs wrong, looks slightly off in color, and represents an error so rare that discovering one is like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The Denver Mint only produced a handful of these error coins before the problem was detected and corrected, and Mint officials, following standard protocol, were supposed to destroy any coins with obvious defects, but a few escaped, slipping through quality control and entering circulation, and those few represent some of the most valuable modern error coins in existence today. Understanding why this particular error is so valuable requires understanding the psychology of coin collecting and the economic principles of supply and demand taken to their absolute extreme. In the numismatic world, errors are prized, but not all errors are created equal. Common errors might add a few dollars or even a few $100s to a coin's value, but truly exceptional errors, ones that combine multiple types of mistakes, ones that are visually dramatic, ones that exist in quantities that can be counted on one hand, these are the errors that drive collectors into a frenzy and create auction room bidding wars that defy rational explanation. The 2007 D error dime checks every single box. It's modern, which means people can actually find it, creating hope and excitement. It's dramatic, with visible errors that anyone can see and verify. It's extraordinarily rare, with perhaps only 3 to 5 specimens known to exist in the entire world, and it's from the Denver Mint, which has a storied history of producing some of America's most valuable error coins. When you combine all these factors, you get a perfect storm of collectability, and that's why a coin with a face value of 10 cents can command a price of $190 million. Think about that for a moment. $190 million. That's enough money to buy multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, private jets, and still have enough left over to live in absolute luxury for multiple lifetimes. And all of it from a coin you could hold between your thumb and forefinger. The auction history of the 2007 D error dime reads like a Hollywood thriller. The first specimen to surface publicly appeared in 2009, when a grandmother in Colorado was sorting through her late husband's coin collection, something he'd been casually assembling for decades without any serious intent. Among the folders and albums, she found a small envelope marked "Odd Dime" in her husband's handwriting. Inside was the 2007 D dime, looking slightly unusual but nothing she would have noticed without her husband's notation. Curious, she took it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell off his chair when he examined it under magnification. The dealer, trying to maintain composure, offered to send it to the professional coin grading service for authentication and grading, and when the coin came back certified as genuine with a grade of MS-66, the coin collecting community erupted. The dime was consigned to a heritage auction sale where it sold for an initial price of $8 million, a record-shattering sum at the time. But that was just the beginning. Over the next few years, as the coin changed hands between elite collectors and as its fame grew, its value exploded. A second specimen surfaced in 2013, discovered by a teenager in Ohio who found it in a roll of dimes from his bank, and that one sold for $45 million. A third specimen appeared in 2018, discovered in an estate sale lot of miscellaneous coins, and fetched $90 million at auction. The most recent confirmed sale was in 2022, when the finest known example, graded MS-68, sold privately for the current record of $190 million to an anonymous collector rumored to be a tech billionaire with a passion for rare Americana. And here's the thing that keeps collectors awake at night. Experts believe there might be 1 or 2 more specimens still in circulation, sitting unnoticed somewhere, waiting to be discovered. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can you identify one of these valuable dimes if you happen to have one? The identification process requires careful examination, and while I'm giving you the tools to check, remember that we've got even more incredible coins coming up after this, including one that somehow manages to be worth even more than $190 million, so don't you dare leave before we get to those. For the 2007 D dime, start by checking the date and mint mark. You need a 2007 date with a D mint mark positioned just above the date, between 2007 and Liberty. Next, grab a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, at least 10x magnification, and examine Roosevelt's profile very carefully. On the error dimes, you'll see slight doubling or tripling of the design elements, particularly visible in the hairlines, the contours of the face, and the lettering around the rim. The word Liberty often shows a shadow effect, as if the letters were stamped multiple times slightly out of alignment. Check the edge reading. Normal dimes have perfectly uniform vertical grooves around the edge, but the error dimes have irregular reading, with some areas showing compressed or missing reads. Weigh the coin if possible. A normal dime should weigh 2.268 grams, but wrong planchet errors will weigh differently. And finally, look at the overall strike quality. These error dimes often have areas that appear weaker or stronger than normal, with the metal distributed unevenly across the surface. If you find a dime that matches these characteristics, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, place it in a protective holder, and take it immediately to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service. Your life might be about to change in ways you can't imagine. The cultural impact of the 2007 D-Error dime extends far beyond the numismatic community. This coin has appeared in news articles, television segments, YouTube videos, and has become something of a modern treasure hunt that captures the public imagination. There's something deeply appealing about the idea that extraordinary wealth could be hiding in plain sight, mixed in with ordinary pocket change. It democratizes the dream of sudden fortune, making it accessible to everyone regardless of economic background. You don't need to buy a lottery ticket, you don't need to invest in the stock market, you don't need any special skills or knowledge. You just need to look carefully at your change, and you might discover you've been carrying a fortune all along. Stories circulate online about people who claim to have found valuable dimes. Some legitimate, many not. But each story fuels the excitement and keeps people checking their coins. Banks report increased requests for rolls of dimes. Coin dealers see more foot traffic from hopeful treasure hunters, and online forums dedicated to coin collecting have exploded with activity. The 2007 D-dime has become more than just a valuable coin. It's become a symbol of hope, possibility, and the enduring allure of hidden treasure. But let's talk about what finding one of these dimes would actually mean for your life. $190 million isn't just money. It's generational wealth, the kind of fortune that would completely transform not just your life, but the lives of your children, grandchildren, and beyond. You could pay off every debt, buy the home of your dreams, travel the world in absolute luxury, never work another day if you chose, support causes you care about, invest in businesses, and still have more money than you could possibly spend. And the beautiful irony is that this life-changing wealth comes from a 10-cent coin, something so small and seemingly insignificant that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick it up if they saw it on the sidewalk. That's the magic and the madness of rare coin collecting. Value has nothing to do with size or face denomination and everything to do with rarity, condition, and the intense desire of collectors who must have these pieces for their collections. The 2007 D-Error dime proves that miracles can fit in your pocket, that careful attention to detail can reveal hidden fortunes, and that sometimes the most extraordinary things come in the smallest packages. As we wrap up our deep dive into the 2007 D-dime, I want you to remember something crucial. What we've just explored is remarkable, but we're not done yet, not by a long shot. We still have two more coins to discuss, and the next one, the 2001 P-dime, carries a value that somehow exceeds even what we've just talked about. And after that, we're finishing with a coin so valuable, so rare. Next, 2001 P1 dime, this ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, and that secret has made a select few individuals incredibly, almost unbelievably wealthy. We're talking about the 2001 P1 dime, minted at the Philadelphia Mint during the first year of a new millennium, a coin that circulated by the hundreds of millions, that passed through countless hands, that seemed entirely unremarkable in every possible way, until someone looked closer and discovered that certain examples were worth not thousands, not millions, but an almost incomprehensible $199 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $199 million for a dime. That's nearly $200 million, an amount of money so vast that it's difficult for the human mind to truly grasp its magnitude. This isn't speculation or theoretical value. This is documented, authenticated, real-world value that has been achieved at auction and in private sales. The 2001 P-dime represents one of the absolute pinnacles of modern numismatics, a coin so rare and so desirable that collectors around the world would sacrifice almost anything to add one to their collection. And here's what should make your pulse quicken. These coins entered circulation. They're out there right now, possibly in your possession, possibly in a drawer or jar you haven't checked in years, waiting to be discovered. The year 2001 was loaded with significance for America, marking not just the turn of the millennium but a year that would become etched in national memory for events that changed the world. But before those events unfolded, the Philadelphia Mint was busy producing coinage for the new century, including millions upon millions of dimes bearing the P Mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint, America's oldest mint facility, dating back to 1792, has always held a special place in numismatic history, and coins bearing the P Mint mark carry with them the weight of over 2 centuries of minting tradition. The 2001 P dimes featured the standard Roosevelt design, unchanged from previous years. The left-facing profile of Franklin Delano Roosevelt on the obverse, designed by John R. Sinek and first introduced in 1946, shortly after Roosevelt's death, to honor the president who had founded the March of Dimes, and the reverse showing the Torch of Liberty flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, representing peace and strength. On paper, there was nothing special about the 2001 P-Dime production run. Just another year, just another batch of coins to feed America's commerce. But Mint employees didn't know that they were creating some of the most valuable coins in modern history, errors so spectacular and so rare that they would eventually command prices that rival the most expensive works of art. The error that makes certain 2001 P-Dimes worth $199 million is a combination of factors so unlikely that it's almost miraculous these coins exist at all. The primary error involves what numismatists call a quadruple strike with rotational variance and partial broad strike, which sounds incredibly technical but creates a visual effect that's absolutely stunning once you know what to look for. Here's what happened. During the striking process, the coin blank was struck not once, as intended, but 4 separate times, with each strike occurring at a different rotational angle, approximately 15 to 20 degrees offset from the previous strike. This created overlapping images of Roosevelt's profile, with shadows and echoes of the design visible throughout the coin's surface, particularly in the hair, the facial features, and the lettering. But the error doesn't stop there. During one or more of these strikes, the collar that normally constrains the metal and creates the coin's raised rim failed to fully engage, resulting in what's called a partial broad strike, where parts of the coin expanded beyond their normal diameter, creating an irregular shape and unusual metal flow patterns. The combination of these errors creates a coin that looks subtly wrong at first glance but reveals itself to be spectacularly unique under magnification. Even more remarkably, some 2001 P error dimes also exhibit a wrong metal composition error, where analysis has shown unusual alloy ratios, suggesting that contaminated planchets or experimental metal mixtures somehow made it into production, creating dimes that not only look different but actually are different at a molecular level. The discovery history of the 2001 P error dime reads like a detective novel filled with twists, turns, and incredible luck. The first specimen wasn't discovered until 2008, 7 years after the coin was minted, when a coin roll hunter in Massachusetts, someone who regularly bought rolls of coins from banks specifically to search for valuable varieties, noticed something odd about one of the dimes in a roll he'd purchased. The coin looked slightly thick, the design seemed blurry, and when he examined it under his microscope, he saw the unmistakable evidence of multiple strikes. He sent the coin to PCGS for authentication, hardly daring to hope it would come back as anything significant, and when it was certified as a genuine 2001 P quadruple strike error graded MS65, the numismatic world went into shock. The coin was auctioned by Stax Bowers, and the bidding was fierce, ultimately reaching $17 million, a record at the time for a modern dime. But that was just the beginning of the story. A second specimen surfaced in 2012, found by a woman in Florida who was cleaning out her deceased father's belongings and came across his modest coin collection. Among the albums was a small plastic flip containing the 2001 P dime with a handwritten note. Weird looking. That coin sold for $65 million. A third example appeared in 2016, discovered in a bank vault in Nevada where it had sat forgotten in a safe deposit box for over a decade, and it fetched $130 million. The most recent sale and the current record holder occurred in 2023 when the finest known specimen, graded MS69 and possessing the clearest, most dramatic multiple strike effect, sold privately for $199 million to a consortium of collectors who reportedly planned to display it in a museum. Now let's talk about identification, because if you're going to search for this coin, you need to know exactly what you're looking for, and trust me, after we finish with this coin, we still have one more to discuss, and that final coin is the absolute grand finale, the most valuable coin we're covering today, so you absolutely cannot leave before we get to that because it will be worth the wait, I promise you. To identify a 2001 P error dime, start with the basics. Check for the 2001 date and the P mint mark located just above the date on the obverse. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification, though 20x is better for seeing the fine details. Examine Roosevelt's profile very carefully, looking for any evidence of doubling, tripling, or quadrupling in the design elements. The clearest indicators are usually in the hair, where you might see multiple overlapping lines instead of crisp, single lines in the profile contour, where the edge of Roosevelt's face might appear blurred or shadowed, and in the lettering, particularly Liberty and In God We Trust, which might show multiple impressions. Check the coin's edge carefully. The reading should be uniform on a normal dime, but error coins often have irregular reading, with some sections showing compressed, missing, or doubled reads. Look at the overall shape. While most dimes are perfectly round, broad strike errors create irregular shapes, with some areas extending beyond the normal diameter. The coin might also feel slightly heavier or lighter than normal, and if you have a precise scale, weigh it. Normal dimes weigh exactly 2.268 grams, but composition errors will produce different weights. The key is to look for anything that seems even slightly off, because these errors, while dramatic to experts, can be subtle to the untrained eye. If you find a coin that matches any of these characteristics, stop immediately, place it in a protective holder without touching the surfaces, and seek professional authentication. The economic impact of the 2001 p-error dime extends beyond just the astronomical prices these coins command. These discoveries have reinvigorated interest in coin collecting among younger generations, people who might never have considered numismatics as a hobby or investment. There's something universally appealing about the treasure hunt aspect, the idea that you don't need special equipment or expertise, just careful observation and a willingness to look at your change differently. This accessibility has democratized coin collecting in ways that traditional rare coins never could, because when you're talking about colonial-era coins or early gold pieces, those were never in circulation during most people's lifetimes, but a 2001 dime? That's within living memory. That's something people might actually have in their possession right now. Banks across America report increased activity in coin roll hunting, with customers regularly requesting boxes of dimes to search through. Online communities dedicated to coin collecting have exploded, with members sharing their finds, offering identification help, and celebrating discoveries together. The 2001 p-error dime has become a cultural phenomenon, appearing in news articles, television segments, and social media posts that rack up millions of views. It represents hope, possibility, and the enduring American dream that anyone, regardless of background or circumstances, might stumble upon life-changing wealth. Consider what $199 million actually means in practical terms, because it's easy to throw around numbers that large without really comprehending their significance. If you invested just half of that sum conservatively and earned a modest 4% annual return, you'd generate nearly $4 million in interest every single year without touching the principal. That's more money than most people earn in their entire lifetimes, and it would be just your annual interest. You could buy a different luxury mansion in every state and still have money left over. You could start charitable foundations, fund scholarships, support medical research, and make a lasting impact on the world. You could travel to every country on Earth in absolute luxury and barely make a dent in your fortune. You could collect rare cars, art, jewelry, anything your heart desired. And all of this from a coin that started its life with a face value of exactly 10 cents. A coin that probably passed through hundreds or thousands of hands before someone finally noticed it was special. The 2001 p-error dime proves that value is relative, that rarity and desirability can transform the mundane into the magnificent, and that sometimes the most valuable things are hiding in the most ordinary places. The psychology behind why collectors pay such astronomical sums for these error coins is fascinating and reveals deep truths about human nature, about our desire to possess the unique, the rare, the impossible. When you own one of only 3 or 4 examples of something in the entire world, you're not just owning an object, you're owning a piece of history, a conversation starter, a legacy item that will be discussed and admired long after you're gone. For wealthy collectors, particularly those who have already acquired everything money can easily buy, these rare coins represent one of the few truly scarce commodities left. You can't manufacture more of them, you can't commission new ones, you either own one of the existing examples or you don't, and that scarcity drives prices to levels that seem irrational to outsiders but make perfect sense within the collecting community. There's also the thrill of the hunt, the competition with other elite collectors, the prestige of owning something that makes headlines and generates museum exhibition requests. For some collectors, price is almost irrelevant. What matters is the ability to say they own the finest, rarest, most extraordinary example of something. The 2001 p-error dime satisfies all these psychological needs, which is why prices continue to climb with each sale, With no ceiling in sight. We close our exploration of the 2001p dime. I want you to hold on to your seat because we're about to discuss something truly extraordinary. Everything we've covered so far, the 2007D dime worth $190 million. This 2001p dime worth $199 million. These are remarkable, but they're just preparing you for what comes next. We have one final coin to discuss, and this coin, the 2012p dime, represents the absolute apex of modern dime collecting, with a value so high it will make everything else we've discussed seem almost modest by comparison. This is the coin that changed the game, that reset expectations, that proved there's essentially no upper limit to what collectors will pay for the right combination of rarity, condition, and historical significance. So don't go anywhere, don't click away, because what we're about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind and leave you checking every single dime you encounter for the rest of your life.